So I've never tried to make this kind of video before, but I figured I would make some sort of tutorial-esque thing showing off the live show that I've spent some time building and teaching you guys how to use VDMX if you have any interest in using it. It's my favorite program I've come across. It's like totally limitless with what you can design. Totally modular setup, and I've been using it for about probably like 7 or 8 years now. Slowly, just learning more and more, watching tutorials and playing around with it. And what I can do now with it is totally eclipsing what I used to play around with. So, yeah, it's a wonderful program and a lot of fun. I started out just using videos and using it as a VJ program, and basically just taking videos, throwing effects on them, making it look cool, uh, basic VJ stuff. And now I have expanded it to a lighting program as well, and it's been very nice to be able to run the lighting and the visuals all out of the same program, be able to have them talk to each other. It simplifies things quite a bit. So I'm gonna do just a basic rundown of what we have on the screen here and what all of that does, how it builds to create the live show that uh, we end up with at the end. So, right along the top layer here, we have one big one and then the others are smaller. But all of these basically represent pars. I've got 4 ADJ mega par profile pluses or something like that. And they basically just work as a nice wash or uplighting. But I've got 8 of those, and each one is represented by one of these windows here. And right here we have our color control, which is basically taking 3 DMX channels and mapping them to this layout here. Then we have UV, strobe, and dimmer as the last 3 channels. I have these set on 6 channel because, well, it's 6 channel seems to be all I need, and adding extra channels that I don't actually use seems to overcomplicate things sometimes. So we've got our 8 of these that are mapped to 8 groups of 6 different DMX channels, that all have individual control for all of the channels that I use: color, UV, strobe, and dimmer. So the next things I have are my I've got 4 ADJ pocket pros, which are basically just tiny moving heads. I think they're only 25 or 30 watts, but they're all right for a small venue, and it's really great to have some moving heads at all. So these have, I think, 10 channels because it's nice to have, well, I mean, they do more things, so they get more channels, but also I like using the extra flexibility in these a bit more and don't want to limit myself. So I've got the 4 of these, and then I've got two monoprice large 300 watt pars that I basically use just to wash out the back end of the venue. So they'll light up the walls behind the DJ wall. All of these are giving you the actual light effects. And so I like to map those a little bit differently just to kind of accent each other. And then I have another monoprice one that is slightly smaller, just one of them, but it's a nice big wash, so I usually use it in conjunction with these two. Over here I have the Spot Master, which basically will control all of the spots at one time if I want to do that, which comes in handy for sure, especially just adding accents on strobe and turning them on and off quickly with one button or one fader. And then I have my Par Master over here, which I just have mapped. It looks like I may have to do some remapping because that should control all of it. Yeah, I may just need to fix that, but that one should control all of these, so I can have the same ability to quickly change the color or turn it off or on or add a strobe and have it affect all of those but not all of the lights in general. So basically all of the ones I showed you are just representations of lights and DMX channels, and these are all totally custom built because that's just the way this program works. You have to put a lot of time in learning the interface and getting used to what it is, but then once you do, its possibilities are limitless. So past the lights, I have a LFO over here, which is just an oscillation. You set how much time you want the oscillation to take. You can pick cosine or sine or whatever and pick how long it wants to be, and then you can then use the data that it's taking out of the LFO to drive effects or whatever you want, really. And so I have this set to happen over the course of 8 bars. And I have 2 modifiers on it. When a button or something like this is green, it means it's got a data source coming into it from elsewhere. And so this is a reverse button, which just reverses the flow of the LFO. And this is a skip button. And so I have it to skip a quarter of a measure forward, which seems to offset the normal flow in a way that I like. And the reason that they keep flashing and changing is I have an audio analysis over here underneath my UI inspector that is picking up microphone or audio from my microphone. It doesn't have to use your microphone. Lots of times when I'm doing a live show, I will have the audio routing directly from my Tractor S8 into there so that all of the audio driven effects are as in line with the actual audio coming out as they possibly can be, which makes everything look a lot cleaner. But this audio analysis that I've added over here picks up sound, and then I can send this data over here. And so I've told the LFO to reverse direction every time it hits a bass note, and to skip forward a quarter of a measure every time it gets a high tone. And it doesn't really show that very well while I'm talking because there's so much of both, but in the music it seems to balance itself out and look pretty cool. So that's the LFO. Then I have a bunch of sequencers over here, which are basically like almost beat grid sequencers, but they're just data without sound or anything really attached to it. So you create these sequencers, and then you can route that data somewhere else to use it in whatever you want. So right here, I've got one that takes 2 measures to get across, and it just plays. I can't remember exactly where that data is being routed now, but I think mostly I use it for effects where I want something to change semi-dramatically, but not too dramatically, essentially every beat usually. And I can speed that up or slow it down so it changes at different marks in a beat as I like. The one below it I use as a color changer, just because my spots have a color wheel rather than an actual RGB mixing, and those channels are set up in like the first half of all of the DMX whatever, and so I use that to control what colors the spots are going to use, and setting it up like this generally gives me a more left, right, up, down, incremental kind of feel rather than just knowing that I've got 12 colors somewhere in that fader. So yeah, then underneath that I have my spot chase sequencer, which is set up to be 4 segments across because I have 4 spots, and I use it for chases. So the light will jump from one spot to the other. None of them will be lit at the same time, and then I can adjust the speed on that, and the speed is synced to the clock, so I can make it make 1 revolution in a beat, a bar, a quarter of a bar, an eighth of a bar, however fast they'll go. And so that one gets a lot of use. The 8-track sequencer here, same exact thing, but it's set up for the pars. So right now I have these all set to master control, which is just my basic starting point. They should follow each other. These are inverted, but if I wanted to use the chase, I would pick my preset over here, which actually I wouldn't click here because then I'd have to click here and here and here, and I've mapped all of these onto a button that I've created over here, yeah. So if I click that, it should start the chase. And so now you see the dimmer, which is on and off, is jumping from one to the other. And then I can reverse the direction by reversing the sequencer over here, which is, I've just created this button to press that button just so it's easy to find and right where everything else is. And then if I want to turn the chase off, I have to hit this button, and then that should bring everything back to master control. Now chases, I have to add a little bit of extra work because they have to act very differently from each other to create a chase. The timing has to be assigned separately, at least as far as I've figured out how to use it so far. So I have to add an extra step over here. But for all of the ones that aren't chases, I can generally use just a master control. And so I have the master controls for all of the spot over here. And these are presets that I've created just to be able to rely on something to work when I'm not next to the board. So auto LFO swing, the left, or the X and the Y are controlled by the cosine signal and the sine signal coming out of my LFO over here. And so they do their thing in going up and down as an LFO or a sine and a cosine would, but they jump and change direction to go with the audio. Nothing else going on in this one. It's just a basic one. I gotta add some more for a show coming up, but this is just the show file that I'm really trying to hone in on right now. Top down, the lights just go from the top point to the bottom point, and that is set by telling it to go from 100 to 0 over the course of 8 bars using the clock. And then the dimmer I set to turn on every first beat of a measure, and then I inverted it so that it would turn on all of the time except that. So it should, when the bottom reaches, or when the line reaches the bottom, it turns off so the light reaches the bottom, and then in theory, I still haven't tested this one, when it gets to the top, or when it gets to the bottom, it turns off and then goes up to the top very quickly. So you only see the lights coming down. You don't see an up and down motion, which gets very repetitive. Down zigzag, same thing, except I added a little bit to the XY just to give it something different. And I'll be designing a bunch more of these, but this is just a very basic framework. So we've gone over all of that. This is the media bin, which is set up to pick your videos, or I believe you can use 3D files. They have some other files I can't remember the name of that are basically visual generators rather than actual videos. Those are pretty cool, but you can it's your media bin. So usually it's videos, but you can use a decent amount of different kind of file formats within here. Photos for sure. And then these show up on your layers, which you find in your workspace inspector. I've got 4 layers here. That's a redundancy layer. That's where everything's really coming from. Cameras is for when I'm doing a live show, like a Twitch stream. And then this was a whole side project that's just kind of sitting there if I want to use it later. So I have my video, which I'm playing from my media bin. I just switched the video. It still looks similar because I've got a ton of effects going through it, but you can see that it is a different video each time when you change the video. And these are all Beeple loops. Beeple's amazing. He gives a lot of stuff out for free. If you're a VJ, you need to know who Beeple is. So I have my video playing in here. This is just my video controls. Usually I'll map my move in either my jump in either direction to something just to give it a little flair, but I haven't touched that yet. And down here are our effects. Right now I have a preset of effects running, which I just love. It takes pretty much any video and makes it into a pretty cohesive visual show. So I use it a bit. We've got RGB which is taking the audio analysis values from over here and using it to control the amount of red, green, and blue in the video. So red is lows, green is mids, blue's highs, and as the audio comes in, they all react to that, as you can see. The filter is a pretty neato effect. It's hard to see what it does here, but it's basically like a filter on a DJ controller, where if you take it to one end, it'll take out all of the bright tones, and if you take it to the other end, it'll take out all the low tones, and it will do it in a alpha channel kind of looking way, where if you layer it on top of something, it will shine through very, very well. On top of that effect, we have kaleidoscope, which I've got. It's basically, it looks like just a normal ass kaleidoscope, and then the X and the Y movement along the channel are controlled by my LFO over here. So they're always moving in an up-down swing, but when they get audio feed coming into it, they jump a little bit, which gives it a nice look. Then you've just got your main layer composition, which I'm not touching at all right now. Yeah, so that was pretty much an overview of everything. Really, really brief, because I mean, there's so much in here. I could spend days explaining all of it, but I wanted to just breeze over the top as quick as I could, give a basic idea of what it is that's going on in a VDMX live show, especially mine. And possibly I'll do more and go a little deeper into it, show you how to actually set any of this up. And yeah, but I think that's about as much information as any video should have. So let me know what you think. I'm gonna play some music and just show you what it does for a second, and yeah.